all of a sudden the entire world is untethered to gold. Doesn't matter if it's tethered to gold or something else finite, but that would be the definition of sound money. You can't just print money with wanton abandon. It has to be tethered to something. And men with guns, army, police, whatever, they go and confiscate all the gold in the vault, take it back. That people were using that for crime, and they have stolen from us our ability to escape their corrupt money system. If you know your history, if you know the importance of Bitcoin, if you know and can articulate to other people the corruption in the existing monetary system, you will have the fortitude and strength. The price drops 50%, everyone's crying in their Cheerios, all the media is telling you it's going to zero, you jump in and buy more.
Hello everyone, Dr. Dave Moore here, and I'm here with Max Wright, and the Endgame series it was an awesome series, and we're so excited to have had Max with us. It's been a great program. We've got a lot of feedback. So Max, I thought we'd bring you back on. A lot of questions are coming up as far as what's going on, as far as Bitcoin, crypto, how to kind of minimize what may be this impending crash in the market, and what we can do about that. So we're so happy to have you here today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much for having me.
So just extending from that conversation, and I'm the end user of this content, right? I was a chiropractor for 24 years. I have some real estate. I've got some money in the market, and pretty traditional. Like I don't have it anywhere else. And so my concern is, I'm up till now I thought I'm in a pretty comfortable position. What would you say to someone like me or the viewers out there that have kind of, at the moment, for one reason or another, we'll get to that, have stayed away from crypto or thinking about it? But someone in my situation right now, should I feel comfortable or should I be concerned about what's going on in the market today? Yeah,
so fantastic question, by the way, and I think it cuts to the heart of it, which is great. And I think people, what we would consider conventional wisdom, I guess you could say it's not your grandmother's economy right now. Like 0% interest rates and negative interest, that's not a thing. Like, you're not supposed to get paid for the privilege of borrowing money. This money printing is kind of crazy. And I think it's really, really important for people to understand, and also so easy to miss, is that things are very, very different than the way they've always been. And that requires different thinking. And it's pretty easy and I think fun, but maybe that's because I have particular tastes. I think it's really fun to learn about this stuff, and I think it's really fun to think about. But I think it's unbelievably important that people really take to heart that things are different, and it's going to take a new level of thinking to understand it and appreciate what's going on. Now, when I say it's different, it's just different in our lifetimes. If you're a student of history, it's happened over and over and over again. So it's kind of easy to go back and learn. But it's not something you're taught at school. It's not something you're taught. We now have YouTube. We now have revealed films. We now have things where we can actually learn. And so it's relatively easy to learn. I think it's fun to learn, but the vast majority of people are not going to learn it. And they're going to continue doing what has made a lot of sense in our lifetime, which is all the things that you're saying. And what I find very, very sad is they're going to get burned. In my opinion, they're going to get burned. They're going to hurt one way or another. It's going to end up real, real bad, because things are different. And once you understand how they're different, it points you in the direction of what's happening and what to do about it. And then it's kind of pretty easy to take evasive measures. And you don't have to go all in on this. You can say, you know what, there could be some truth to this. I'll allocate 5% of my net worth to this kind of a strategy. Or you can say, I am completely sold, lock, stock, and barrel, totally changed my strategy. 100% of my portfolio is now betting on the world being a very, very different place moving forward. And you can be anywhere in between in that spectrum. But to not, at the bare minimum, have a little bit of insurance that the thesis that we're kind of discussing today is true and is going to play out, then I would consider that very, very risky. And that would be someone in your position. It would be the traditional person.
I've kind of had the sense where I'm kind of the ostrich with the head in the sand, and it's starting to poke up a little bit. And looking at things like crypto, looking at Bitcoin and the history of it, So I think really my biggest hesitation is it almost reads out like a fictional book. There's this anonymous person, Satoshi Nakamoto, and I'm like, I hardly say the name. I dropped my son off at work this morning, and he knows more about it than me. He watched a couple documentaries on it. Like if he had money, he'd be investing it. If he had mind money, he'd be investing it. And I'm like, man, this just sounds so like out of a movie type of thing. So I think there's that little bit of uncertainty that creates a little bit of hesitancy there. But we're looking at almost a decade since you go through the ups and downs and what was allowed, what wasn't allowed, and it's like I think it's here to stay. Could you speak a little bit to the history of that? Maybe some people's uncertainty, and maybe I would imagine that's probably the stock market's been around for as long as I've been alive, right? Real estate's been around as long, so that feels comfortable for me. That may be what I hold on to during the storm, and it may be blown away, right? So let's talk about what may seem uncertain, but seems to be, as we get through this conversation, something that really needs a good hard look at.
Sure. Well, first of all, let's understand that perspective is perfectly normal. It is human nature to have like a fear of the unknown. And I'll add to that great claims require great proof. So first of all, I think it's perfectly normal, expected, and healthy to have great skepticism over Bitcoin. We kind of jumped to Bitcoin there, and cryptocurrency. I think that's just get that off the table. I don't think you're weird if you approach this with hesitation. I think that's a perfectly normal approach. But also, let's understand that plays out with everything. I remember I saw a headline just the other day. It was a throwback from 1997. The headline read, millions of people abandon the internet as a waste of time because speeds are too slow. And so I get it. Your first time you're in the internet, you're 1997, you click a button and it takes forever to do anything. And there's this machine in the corner chirping at you. What is happening? I'm so confused. No one's ever going to use this. This is a total waste of time. So understand it's normal for you to think it. Understand it's normal for you to be wrong to think it. Both of those things are okay. And so with that perspective, we can kind of look into it and say, let's be skeptical, but let's have an open mind. And that'll kind of set us up with the right frame of mind to step forward into this world. And then with regards to the history of Bitcoin, let's kind of get to that part of your question. So I'll just throw out some facts and figures for you. So the 2008 crisis hits and the world sees money printing from governments that the world has never seen before. Okay, they have now since post-COVID. That made that look small. But at the time, it's like that can't happen. And so actually, let me sidestep here for a second because I want to kind of tie back to your first question a little bit about we live in it's a different time. I want to say something. Money is 1/2 of every transaction on the planet. If I'm employing you, I am giving you cash, you are giving me your services. If I'm buying goods from you, you're giving me the widget, I'm giving you cash. Money is 1/2 of every single transaction. And what money is it's supposed to be a store of value. It's an account of what I've contributed to the world and what the world owes me. So if I am a saver, I'm just working 80 hours a week and I'm contributing lots of value to the world and people were paying me enormous amounts of money. Well, that means I've worked hard, I've created good products and services, I have given that to the marketplace, and the marketplace has said, hey, here's some money, we owe you. Maybe not the same person, and that's the beauty of money, it's way better than the barter system, but the world owes me. It's a reflection of how much I've contributed to the world. And it's in the same way a battery stores electricity. Money is supposed to store how much the world owes me. And I can maybe save for retirement, save for a rainy day if, touch wood, I get sick. And that is what money is. It is supposed to be that feature. In order for it to do that, it needs to be what's called sound money. Sound money is money where the purchasing power of that money does not erode. Meaning, if I sell you a service and you give me some money, and today that money buys a loaf of bread. If 3 years' time from now, I just left the money there, I didn't do anything with it, I just saved it. If now it no longer buys a loaf of bread, but only a slice of bread, the money has been eroded in purchasing power. I still have $10 in the bank, but the purchasing power is gone, or it's been reduced at least. And I'm in a situation where my store of value is broken. The contract that I had with the marketplace that it owed me a loaf of bread got broken because 3 years later it only paid me back a slice of bread. So two thoughts. Money is 50% of every transaction. When money is not sound, it's not doing its job. So when we talk about a different epoch, a different era, the world is different. It will never be the same. Or not that it will never be the same, but it's not the same as when we were growing up. That is what I'm talking about. Half of the economy is broken. Half of the economy is corrupt, even, I would say. Half of the economy, i.e. money, is not fulfilling its purpose because they are debasing the currency, they're printing the money, and the more supply of something, the less value it has. Simple, basic economics, everyone gets that. So the value of money is shrinking. So that is like a really big idea that I think really needs to be comprehended. Like, this is the reason you invest the time and energy away from your family, away from your holidays, away from the fun things you want to do, to go and watch a documentary on Bitcoin and the history of money. Something is drastically different. And if you don't adjust your behavior or your thinking, you will get destroyed, is my opinion. So, okay, with all that in mind, let's go back to the history of Bitcoin.
I appreciate you mentioned that in the original interview with Patrick, and I actually have that note here. Thank you very much for explaining that a little bit more. I understood the money part, it's half, but I didn't really understand the other side of that the way that you explained it. So I appreciate that. Okay,
you're welcome. You're welcome. So 2008 comes along, and I think it's important to understand the history of money here. It's not like 2008 comes along and there's this unprecedented money printing, right? And it caused a lot of alarm for a lot of people who know about what money is supposed to be, which is quite a small percentage of the population, but there's enough of us out there that we understand what's going on. And there's this problem. It's like, oh, this thing that we've been talking about, this thing that really we've known is absolutely inevitable. Since 1971, Nixon takes the US off the gold standard. The US dollar is the world reserve currency. All of a sudden, the entire world is untethered to gold. Doesn't matter if it's tethered to gold or something else, so finite, but that would be the definition of sound money. You can't just print money with wanton abandon. It has to be tethered to something. You can only print the money if the gold is there, for example. That's an example of sound money. And we know it's absolutely inevitable that administration after administration, it's just the nature of the beast. They get elected by promising things. Taxing people is unpopular. Let's just print money to pay for it. It's just how it's going to work. The moment you're untethered to gold or something with 100% certainty, it's never ever not happened in the history of the world. The currency and the money will be destroyed eventually. Destroyed, i.e., it's worthless. And all that process could take decades to play out or years to play out, depending. But we're decades into this, and we know that the value. Look at the price of your house, or the price of your health cost, or the price of your education. What does that cost to 30 years ago? And we're talking 10x, 50x, 100x. It's crazy amounts of inflation over that time. So That's the evidence that you need that the currency is being destroyed. Okay, people understand this. There's enough people out there. Let's call it 1, 2, 3% of the population. Like, I don't want to save my money in dollars. That's a breaking of the contract that I have with the marketplace. I put in effort. They give me money. It's a store of value. I can go and buy it. But every year, the amount I can buy is going down. Problem. What can we do? There are things. Well, I can just go and buy gold, right? This is cool. I can just go and buy gold with my dollars, and now I'm not getting deflated. I'm holding gold. My store of value is being preserved. That's a great start. And that's what lots of people did. And then we even said, well, okay, how can we just try to make a little economy with this and make it work? And the way that we did it's very, very simple to do with technology now. It's like, I'll go and put my gold in a vault. You go and put your gold in a vault. The company, who owns the vault knows how much is in there. And if I want to pay for a cup of coffee from you or your chiropractor, I'll pay for an adjustment. On my app, I'll say, send 1.3 grams of my gold, take it off my account and put it on your account. You don't have to physically move the gold. It's a costless transaction. It's done on a computer entry, and your account goes up by 1.3 grams of gold. My account goes down by 1.3 grams of gold, and we're good to go. All right. All of a sudden, we now have a store of value, and the citizens can go and do this elsewhere, and we can get ourselves outside of that corrupt money, which they're forever printing and forever stealing from us through the mechanism of inflation. Problem. They want to steal from you through inflation. They don't want you to escape their privilege of being able to print up money and steal your purchasing power. So they find ways to attack your new system, which is people who use gold are money launderers and terrorists, and we have to shut it down for everyone's safety. And men with guns, army, police, whatever, they go and confiscate all the gold in the vault, take it back. That people were using that for crime, and they have stolen from us our ability to escape their corrupt money system. Okay, very important part of the lesson. There's been probably most people watching this have never really known about this world, but 1, 2, 3% of the population, we understand this, and we've been trying to do this for decades. Men with guns come and ruin it. Okay, Satoshi Nakamoto witnesses all of this and understands his monetary history very well, and understands. Then 2008 hits, and he's like, "This is it. Like, they're printing like crazy. We have to figure out how to create a money that is that performs all the functions of money." And there's a whole lot of them. I probably won't go into it during this video unless you want me to. But there's a whole bunch of things that money needs to be. It needs to be fungible. It needs to be an exchange of value. It needs to be divisible. It needs to be a whole bunch of things. But he said we need to add a component that we've never had before: censorship resistance. In my example, the gold was not censorship resistance. Men with gun came and confiscated the gold. The whole thing collapses. It's all gone. Everyone who participated lost everything. We need something that is censorship resistant. And he has this idea for Bitcoin. And he basically, the concept is that you can hold, there's a whole bunch of technology and cryptography that makes it happen, but that's like a little bit of geek talk and not that fun for me. For me, the fun is in the history and what it achieves. We'll create a thing where if you have what's called the private keys, you have the secret key to your money, and no one needs to be involved in this transaction. If I wanted to send it to you, there's no third parties. We don't need to store the Bitcoin at a vault so that you and I can trade. If we don't need to store it, it should be easy to store too. Like, I don't want to store it in a vault because I fear someone coming and stealing it, and it's physically huge. So I need to store it in a vault. I want it to be this thing where, like, I can deny I've got it. It's like, I don't have it. Like, frisk me. It's not here. And you've got something written on a piece of paper, a mile away in a different vault in a different place, or buried in the backyard, or whatever it is you want to do. Or you can even remember it in your head if you want to do that. There's so many different ways to store Bitcoin. So you've got this situation where you have this opportunity to have money that has all the characteristics of money that one would want, plus several things, but two ones that are really worth noting. One, censorship resistant. Governments cannot shut it down, because governments, they want you to stay in the system where they can print money and steal from you through inflation, and they want to shut down any competition to their privilege on money. So step number one has to be censorship resistant. That's the most important trait of Bitcoin. They can't take it. There's no way to take it. It's decentralized. It's in a million different hands all over the world. Who has it? Few people know, like stuff like that. And number two, it needs to be digital, for the digital age. Like, I want to buy something from someone across the world. The very first transaction in Bitcoin it existed for about 2 years, and it didn't have a price. It was a bunch of tech geeks playing with it, just playing with it because it's cool new technology. Let's fiddle with it and play with it. Someone on a chat board said, hey, if someone gets 2 large pizzas delivered to my house, I will send you 20,000 Bitcoin. And that was the first Bitcoin transaction. And someone from the UK calls up and orders a pizza, pays with their credit card to get a pizza delivered to a house in Florida. The pizza arrives, the guy sends 20,000 Bitcoin to the guy who he's never met before over in the UK. And the first Bitcoin transaction takes place. Bitcoin, for the first time in its life, has a price, 0.0001 penny, or whatever the hell that works out to be. And from there, the rest is history. And so that kind of gives you a little bit of the mindset of Satoshi Nakamoto when he does this. So it kind of answers another question. Why is Satoshi Nakamoto anonymous? Why would he not step forward and proudly proclaim he's solved the world's problems of corrupt money? Well, he would be the enemy of the most powerful people in the world, government. You need only look at Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, and others to know he was very, very, very smart to never reveal his identity. His life would be a miserable, I just couldn't even imagine what they would do to him for having solved the world's problems of giving you and I the gift of evading the corruption that is the existing monetary system.
So it's brilliant then. So incidentally, how much would that pizza cost today with the amount of Bitcoin used?
So instead of being 20,000 Bitcoins, it would be 0.00001 Bitcoin for those pizzas today.
But they paid 20,000 Bitcoins for the pizza. So
yes.
How much would that Bitcoin value be? That's 20,000 times $50,000.
I'm going to have to pull out my calculator for that. It's 20,000 times 30,000. So if you're good at math, you can figure that one out. We're in the millions.
I'm not good at math, but I'm just going to say over $6 million.
Here we go. Let's do it. Okay, I found it. So we are at 1, 2, 3 times. What is it? Price? Let's call the price of Bitcoin $30,000. We're at $600 million.
$600 million. That's fantastic.
Best investment ever.
Right. What a great pizza.
Yeah.
So great. Thank you for that, because it's important as I'm piecing this together for myself and everybody that's not versed in it. So we're talking about printing a ton of money. We're talking about, especially in this past year, we're looking at a collapse, and you kind of alluded to the function of Bitcoin, really kind of comparing it to gold, because gold has always been this safe thing. But what are you putting bars of your gold in your pocket? If we had to leave the country, there was a time when gold became illegal to own. They came after it. You've mentioned that, and it's a fact. So now we're talking about so the security in Bitcoin definitely comes from it being digital, being able to move with it. Let's talk about how you see, because this is endgame, right? We're talking about endgame strategies and people preparing themselves for this changing politics, economy, changing world that we live in. How do you see it? And before we even get to that, let's talk about taxability, and mostly taxability, because how does that happen? You mentioned in your conversation with Patrick was like, well, people aren't using it; they're spending their cash. You want to get rid of the cash because that doesn't have the value they're holding on to Bitcoin. But is it traceable as far as taxes are concerned? Because we kind of be, censorship resistant, right? So is it untraceable? Is it untaxable? And is anything really untraceable today in a digital era because of exchanges that occur, purchasing and trading in a Bitcoin online? There's a digital trail, I'd imagine. So let's talk about that as we move towards being secure and setting ourselves up for whatever's going to happen next.
Okay, so let's take 2 steps here: traceability and taxability. Let's talk about the current tax situation. Is pretty much everywhere in the world has decided that Bitcoin is a commodity. It's like buying gold and silver. It's like buying Bitcoin, and it's just treated as a commodity for taxation purposes. If you buy it and hold it for less than 12 months, it's usually short-term capital gains. If you buy it and hold it for more than 12 months and then sell it, at that point you'll realize a profit or a loss, and it'll be a long-term capital gain. That's how most of the world has taken to treat it. El Salvador just came out and said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to treat it as currency. And that was a very exciting development for us. They said you do not pay gains on your Bitcoin. And I don't know why it's not currency in Portugal, but I think Portugal has said you do not pay tax on your gains. But I'm definitely not an accountant anywhere, let alone Portugal. So double check that one, but I think that's true. So that's the status of how the taxation authorities around the world want to treat it. And I recommend doing all your normal stuff. There's a couple different avenues to go here. I think a lot of people in the Bitcoin community kind of nudge, wink, wink, want to put the powers that be back to sleep. And we're just going to want to listen, Bitcoin is super traceable. It's almost your wet dream, regulators. You get to track everybody. You know where all the money is. And a regulator's wet dream would they'd be able to confiscate it and do more things. But in terms of traceability, you can probably dive down and hunt down and find out where most Bitcoin is and see who's got what and things like that. It's a pretty good deal for you. And it's just a savings account. Like, in order to transact every single day, you've got to convert it back to dollars and then buy your house or then buy your coffee and then do that. And so regulators, go back to sleep. The dollars will always be the money. You'll still be able to steal from us through the mechanism of inflation. And just let us have this thing over here. It's like an investment. It's like buying in gold. It's like buying gold and sitting on gold for 10 years. So you're used to it. Get over it. But I don't think that's true. So as it stands now, I think Bitcoin is quite traceable. The average user is going to do the things that will do the things that will make it very traceable. The way that most people will buy it is they will go to an exchange like Coinbase or Kraken. They will submit their AML, which is anti-money laundering, and KYC, know your customer details. It'll be exactly the same as opening a bank account. It is exactly the same as opening a bank account. You show your driver's license, you show a utility bill, they know who you are, you open an account, and you send money there, and then you buy Bitcoin. And it's just like using TD Ameritrade or something like that, or Schwab. It's KYC, AML, they know who you are. And from there, the way you got in, they can trace it everywhere throughout. And it's fairly traceable, especially the way the average user use it. Now, an advanced user can do some things to make that significantly less traceable, arguably not traceable. They could not buy it from an institution. They could buy it from a friend or somebody who is more local. And so there's Bitcoin meetups all over the world. You can jump on like Meetup and other forums and things and actually go to like a Bitcoin meeting and just hang out with a bunch of Bitcoin geeks and talk about the good, the bad, the ugly of Bitcoin. And probably someone there, you could buy some Bitcoin, and he or she would know, and you would know, and that would be it. So you could get in an untraceable way. Now, like, could an institution come in with $100 million in an untraceable way? Probably not. But could somebody like, in a smaller amounts, $1,000, $500, something like that, could they get in? Probably they could, by finding someone who was willing to sell. That's something to note on the way in. And then when you are using it on the Bitcoin blockchain, there are mechanisms you can do. You can use mixers and other things to where you can jumble it up on chain, where it becomes much more less traceable. And then there's a third thing, which I think, but sorry, let me cut it off there. For the most part, almost everybody who gets into Bitcoin now, it's quite traceable. So I highly recommend paying all your taxes if you buy and sell it. So it's very easy to do. There's services that you just do one click, and it takes all your history, your Bitcoin history that you download from Coinbase or Kraken, gives you a tax report to hand to your accountant, and you're done. I highly recommend everybody do that, because most people are going to do that, and I do that, and just pay your taxes, and that's just the way that is. I don't sell, so I haven't really realized gains. I just keep on hoarding, and so I haven't really had I have much to do with regards to taxes like that, but I have a little bit. But pay your taxes is what I would say on that. But then there's this a third vector I'd like to introduce, which is the technological advance. Like we used the example of the internet earlier in 1997. It's like, it's too slow. There's this loud chirping in the corner. What's the point? Yeah, what does the internet look like today compared to then? Bitcoin is a technology, and there's a lot of things happening around Bitcoin. And there's something called DeFi, which is decentralized finance. And decentralized finance is very, very exciting, because it allows, Bitcoin is like layer one, it's given us money. Layer two is to give us all the things that we do with money. We borrow, we lend, we buy insurance products, we margin trade, we do all these other things. And DeFi is the next level of what's happening on blockchain technology in this decentralized, censorship-resistant world, whereby all of the other financial services that we use, banking, etc., we can now do with our Bitcoin. And that's kind of here today. As of this year, it's here. And it's about to explode in the next year or two, which is going to drastically increase the utility of Bitcoin and all of the other cryptocurrencies in the whole ecosystem. And with that, DeFi is also going to bring, I think, a large amount of anonymity to the Bitcoin and the whole ecosystem. And so you'll see new technology coming around, which is going to bring back the anonymity of Bitcoin. I would say early on Bitcoin, before all the exchanges were built, like Coinbase and Kraken, it was a lot harder to get Bitcoin, but the upside was it was still very anonymous. Now we've lost anonymity, but it's become so easy to buy Bitcoin. I think there will be a revolution, or an evolution, I should say, back to more anonymous variations of Bitcoin, but time will tell on that one.
Wow. Well, so thanks for answering that question. That was one that was, so yes, it is traceable, but it doesn't have to be as traceable. There's ways to go about that.
Correct.
One way or the other. So it's good to know if you want to go and find out as much as you possibly can The reason I asked, I went back into my Coinbase account. I think 3 years ago, I had bought some Bitcoin when it was high because everybody was buying. I'm typical, right? Bought it. Hey, it's the buzz. I bought it now. It was high. Let it sit there. 2 years later, I'm like, well, whatever happened to that? It went down. So I sold it. I should have kept it, especially this year. So of course today, in light of our conversation and research, I went out and I just made sure I got my login for my Coinbase account, and it is down. It was up. It's down. It's like, hey, maybe it's not a bad time to buy a little. So I'll be traditionally purchasing it that way.
But I think that's a really good thing. And I think there's cycles in Bitcoin. There's huge ups and huge downs, and it's part of the game. And I think your journey is a very, very typical one. And for a lot of people, whether or not they become devout Bitcoiners or not, depends on just happenstance and luck, and whether or not they got in at the right time or the wrong time. And if they got to ride a leg up, or if they got straight in and rode a leg down and they're like, this sucks, get out of this thing. A little bit of it is luck, but there's some things that your viewers can do to really help themselves. And if you're getting into it because you just wanted to go up, obviously that's perfectly rational behavior. I understand that, and I buy it because I think it's going up too. But if you're doing it just because it's in the news cycle or whatever, most people are going to fall victim to what you do. They're going to buy high and sell low. The price drops, all the news is negative. Everyone loves to hate on Bitcoin when it's suffering. And it takes a very, very strong psychology and a lot of education through the things I'm talking about here to understand the real picture. There's going to be huge ups and downs, understand what's happening with the media and everything else. But if you know your history, if you know the importance of Bitcoin, if you know and can articulate to other people the corruption in the existing monetary system, you will have the fortitude and strength. The price drops 50%, everyone's crying in their Cheerios, all the media is telling you it's going to zero, you jump in and buy more because you really understand what's happening. And that's why this service that you're providing your viewers is absolutely invaluable, because this gives them the fortitude to run into the burning building. It's not really burning, but I understand why the layperson thinks that it is. And so you can run into that burning building and scoop up cheap Bitcoins. And then when it's at the high and everyone's saying it's going to go up forever, that's when you sell it to all the noobs who come in. And then you go and just repeat that cycle. But to not be on the downside of that cycle, it's the service that you are providing is everything. Give people the education. And when they understand it, so they're like, oh, okay, Bitcoin right now is as big as the internet was in 1997, but it's growing faster. And with the internet, you couldn't invest in HTTP protocol. It's the thing, it's here. You can't invest in HTTP protocol. You got to invest in Google or Alta Vista and Yahoo and pick a winner. And maybe you get Google and maybe you get Alta Vista, right? It's hit or miss. With Bitcoin, you're getting to invest in HTTP. Like you're getting to invest in the protocol. And that's very, very special. And so that's just something really, really cool. And once you really understand the macro vision, and your vision is 5 years out, 10 years out, 15 years out, and not next month, next week, the price goes down, you buy more. The price skyrockets, you sell a little bit, go on a holiday. That's how it works.
Right. So now we're looking at owning something that has value, and we're looking at a possibility it's not a possibility, the absolute, there's going to be a correction somewhere along the line. So
with regards to what? Bitcoin price or the greater economy?
The greater economy. So let's go back to the end game conversation.
Sure.
Owning Bitcoin, owning Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden this turn in the economy. Just tell me maybe best case scenario, worst case scenario as we kind of wrap this up.
Okay, so this one, I've just put an enormous amount of thought into this one. And after all this thought, I'm clueless. So let me tell you all the competing thoughts here. And I've studied economics plenty, and I know it and I love it, and it's a passion. And it's so sad for me. You can wrap it all up in a ball and toss it out the window because it's absolutely irrelevant. Here's what it comes down to. They can keep on printing money. Anytime there's a little shimmer in the market, something goes down, no worries, print more money, prop that up. Oh, there's a problem in the repo market, no worries, print money, solve that problem. Oh, the real estate market starts to crash, no worries, to make a rule. You can't evict anybody for not paying rent. You can't throw anybody out for not paying their mortgage. They can keep making rules, but don't worry, you'll lose money because they're not paying their rent, but don't worry, we'll just give you money. They can keep printing money and just everything goes up forever. And what we have is what's called a hyperinflationary collapse. It's a hockey stick. It goes steeper and steeper and steeper, and you have to print more and more and more and more. And they can make sure the price of every single commodity, every single thing in the world never goes down. They can do that. And they've been doing it for several years, right? Or they can not do that and let the economy do what it's absolutely desperate to do, which is to deleverage, which is to unwind. Like, I'll give you an example right now. I'm trying to, for a tax play, I'm trying to buy some real estate. The yield on real estate now is so low, even though interest rate is near zero, and I can get money for almost for free, I couldn't be and there's a whole bunch of tax gifts given to real estate investors where I can literally go and buy a 50 apartment building. It cost me zero. I could either pay taxes or go and get the building, and then the building will pay me a little bit of money. The headaches involved in owning the building is so high compared to the amount of money I make. Remember, it costs me nothing to buy the building, nothing. And I don't want it because it doesn't make me any money either. Mm-hmm. The rent is so low compared to, and the interest rates are low too, but it's just like it's called the cap rate in the industry. It's not even worth the headache for me to own a building for free. It is so broken. So they've got two options. They just print money, nothing goes down at all, or they stop doing that and we have a deflationary collapse, meaning all of this leverage unwinds and all of a sudden the real estate, the stocks, and the Bitcoin, the price gets destroyed. I mean, destroyed, Great Depression style. They're the two options, right? Now, they've been kicking the can down the road. So the third result is they can kick the can down the road for some amount of time. So maybe we go sideways for 10 years. I don't know. But at some point, I don't know if it's a month away, 2 years away, or 10 years away. I think it's relatively close. I don't think it's 10 years away. But we either have to go into a hyperinflationary collapse or a deflationary collapse. Hyperinflationary collapse means that the price of everything goes up compared to dollars. Deflationary collapse, the price of everything goes down compared to dollars. And that's because the market is so broken and all of the economics wisdom, you throw it out the window. It means nothing. What are the powers that be going to do? We're supposed to live in a free market, and we are supposed to have things where constantly little tiny things are breaking, and that's the creative destruction of the free market. Little tiny things break and new things come up and little tiny things happen. But we live in a world where we want the government to solve all our problems and backstop everything. Oh my God, there's a corona. Please tell us what to do. Tell us to lock in our thing. And the government solves all the problems. Here's the problem with that. Everything is safe until nothing's safe. Everything is guaranteed until nothing is guaranteed. 2008 happens, no worries. Trillions of dollars stimulus. The government saved the day. Thank you. But what happened was the creative destruction of the free market process didn't happen. The inefficient businesses that were supposed to collapse did not collapse. They're still here and they're still sucking the rest of us down. They were supposed to go bankrupt. Those things were liquidated, resold to better entrepreneurs for pennies on the dollar, and then new entrepreneurs take those assets and raise the value for everybody. That didn't happen. The problem, the system gets more corrupt, more broken, it's like an anchor on our prosperity. It weighs us down, and the solution that they have at the moment is keep printing. And there's only two ways it ends up: hyperinflationary collapse, deflationary collapse. So what do we do as investors? That's the hard part. And here's what I've come to realize from me. This works for me. In the instance where we are going into a hyperinflationary collapse, where they just keep on printing and nothing goes down ever again, Bitcoin will be the best asset class, or cryptocurrency will be the best asset class by orders of magnitude. It will massively outstrip real estate, stock market, everything. Bitcoin is the best investment ever. In the instance where there's a deflationary collapse, the best thing to do is to wait and hold and have a portion, or have dollars. If it's a deflationary collapse, the best thing to do is to have dollars. Sell everything. Have dollars. You'll get to buy everything else cheaper. Now, here's what I'll say. Given that there are two scenarios, I have a bit of both. I have some cash and I have some Bitcoin, and everything else I don't want. It's a waste of my time. Right? I have more Bitcoin than cash because I think they're going to keep printing a lot for as long as they can. And Bitcoin, I feel very, very safe with my Bitcoin. Okay. If the deflationary collapse happens, there'll be a huge unwinding process. It will take some amount of time. The response will be very, very quick, and they will start printing money. They might miss in this scenario, they've missed the boat. There's been a big crash, and they'll respond with printing money. And Bitcoin and gold will turn us around and lead us out. It'll be the very first asset class to recover, and it will recover spectacularly. So even in the instance where they have a deflationary collapse and the price of Bitcoin gets smashed by 50%, as does real estate, as does the stock market, as does everything else, it'll be a short-lived pain, because Bitcoin will come out of that a million miles an hour, because we'll see the fragility of the system. They've built a system where everything's guaranteed until nothing's guaranteed, and nothing will be guaranteed. And all of a sudden, it's going to be absolute mayhem, chaos, things are going to collapse, and this extremely anti-fragile, censorship-resistant, pristine collateral is going to be there, and it's going to be what everyone rushes to after that collapse. Scoop it up cheap, and that's the new economy. And so for me, there's only two things to be in at the moment: cash and cryptocurrency. That's it. Everything else to me is a waste of time.
Wow. So you look at Bitcoin as almost like an insurance policy either way. And my question is this: so the increased rate that they're printing money, this is unprecedented. Is this a sign of that it's about to happen? Do you feel like that is kind of, we're seeing this spike in printing of money like it's never, ever been done before in the history of this country anyway? Is that a sign that it's about to happen, or is it a way to kick the can down the road a little bit longer? Are they buying time, or is this the end?
Well, so we can go back to 2008, and a lot of people were saying this is the end, right? And it turned out they were wrong. They managed to kick the can down the road. Now, the question is, I don't know, have they managed to kick the can down the road? Looks like it for the moment, but like I look at my situation, right? I have quite a good knowledge of the tax situation and whatever, and I'm looking at real estate. I can literally, it costs nothing out of my pocket. The government will give me the money to buy a building, and I couldn't be bothered buying it because I'd have to deal with tenants and make no money. So, I mean, I think we're really, really close. I think more and more people are going to figure this out. It's not worth the headache to own these assets, even though you think, yeah, rent coming in, great. In the inflationary system, you borrow, let's say, $10 million to go and buy an apartment block, right? You get the mortgage, you get a fixed interest. And we go into a hyperinflationary world. Well, that building that cost you $15 million to buy, it's worth $150 million. Your debt inflated away to zero. You pay that off with a couple of months' rent from 3 of your tenants, right? So you own the building outright now, but you think you might feel rich. It's worth $150 million. The problem is your Big Mac costs $4,000. You didn't actually get ahead. Your debt got inflated away, and so in that respect, you absolutely got ahead. And so that's like the play there that a lot of the people who think we're going into the hyperinflationary collapse are going, and it's a valid play. Don't get me wrong. It's smart, and it's potentially worth it. I'm sorry, I lost track of your question, so I can't bring that back.
No, I was just trying to get a sense of whether or not the increased rate. And I saw a graph recently that just
hockey stick. Gotcha.
Putting money into the economy, and then it went 2009. And I remember that it was a little bump, and then it's like it's the last switch of the last year.
So yes, to bring that back to your point, thank you for bringing me back on track. Okay, the answer to the question is yes, it is indicative that we are near the end game. However, just to what does near mean? What's happening now looked exactly the same as what happened in 2008, and they managed to kick the can down the road. Now, so there was a violent break in 2008. They print a whole bunch of money, kick the can down the road, and they survive until 2020. There's another break. That break is way bigger, and their response in terms of money printing is way bigger than 2008. Can they kick the can down the road? Maybe. If they do, the next break will be even bigger. That I'm certain of. Every break has to be bigger. Is this the break that is unrecoverable? And now all of a sudden we either go into hyperinflationary collapse or deflationary collapse? I don't know. That one I don't know, and I've thought about it endlessly, and I can't come up with an answer because who knew they could do what they did? Like, it baffles my mind. Living in an economy where you can't get kicked out of your house for not paying rent or not paying your mortgage is just beyond baffling for me. I mean, it's all rules. It's communism, and they can decide who wins and who loses. But eventually, we all starve to death. So that's the collapse that ends up happening. And I'll add another sense to that. That which cannot go on forever will not. So for sure, if they keep on printing, and if they solve every problem by printing money, hyperinflationary collapse is guaranteed, right? Whether or not they choose to do the hyperinflationary collapse or the deflationary collapse, I don't know. History tells us it's most likely going to be the inflationary collapse, because whenever a government's had access to that power, they use it, and it's a much worse result than a deflationary collapse. But I don't know. Put your conspiracy hat on. What do they have in store for us? Who knows?
Who knows is right. It's been a crazy, crazy year, and you have been such an incredible wealth of information for myself and for our listeners. So I appreciate you coming out today and just talking, just expanding what you mentioned in the End Game program. I love for people to be able to connect with you. I know you have a great YouTube channel. I'm going to spell it. It's Contrarian Dude. It's CONTRARIAN Dude. That's your YouTube page. You've got tons of content you've got interviews going back for years with people on Bitcoin. So you absolutely are an expert in this field. So I'll have the link. We'll have the link for that below as well. Just really appreciate. Is there a website as well, or is there?
No, it's best just go to YouTube and look for Contrarian Dude. Subscribe to me there. I'm on BitChute too, Contrarian Dude as well. And yeah, I originally created the channel in 2012 to help Ron Paul get elected, actually. And the early stuff is all like libertarian philosophy and economics and some really good stuff back there that I throw people back there because it's like, I wish more people were interested in that. Sadly, they're not. Today, I do more of Bitcoin stuff and Bitcoin charting and technical analysis and Bitcoin news and helping people invest. But the whole channel is dedicated to helping people navigate this crisis. And you can just jump on YouTube and it's free. And I highly recommend people do that.
Well, appreciate your work. You appreciate that work and your philosophies of freedom and helping people find that freedom, whether it's financial freedom or otherwise, freedom of choice. And especially in this uncertain times, having someone out there like yourself, getting content out there for people, being part of our community as well. We really appreciate that. And thank you for spending the time today.
Thank you so much for having me. Look forward to doing it again.
You too, man. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.